Welcome to the 9th edition of America's greatest race, the Amgen Tour of California, starting this year in the state capital of Sacramento and finishing off in Thousand Oaks in 8 days' time, covering a total distance of 1,155 kilometers. But of course, the stage today starts and finishes in Sacramento. We have 3 hotspot sprints along the way and a third category, King of the Mountains, for the riders to face, as we can see by the stage profile here. By no means a flat stage, but a very steady run into the finish, and it could be one for the sprinters. Of course, a pretty stellar field in this year's Tour of California, arguably the best ever field assembled. Of course, we have 2012 winner, Tour de France winner Sir Bradley Wiggins, and there he is, Wiggo, emblazoned on his sleeve. And then we have Tor Hushovd of BMC, the former world champion, as they rolled out, blazing sunshine. We had a 6-man breakaway that went away very, very early in the stage, and we joined them here. And the breakaway consisted of Thomas Liese of Belkin Pro Cycling, Hernandez Bolivar, the Colombian of the United Healthcare team, Martin Verschoor and Charles Planet from Team Novo Nordisk. The young Great Britain rider, 19 years of age, the youngest in the race, Theo Geoghegan-Hart, and William Routsley of Team Optim by Kelly Benefit Strategies. So this breakaway opened up a reasonable lead as we join the race live. 6 riders still out in front. Peloton at 3 minutes and 15 seconds. They did split over the summit of the first King of the Mountains today, but no doubt the bunch are going to be chasing hard to reel these back in before the finish, because of course we do have several of the world's top sprinters in the field as they cross over the river here. Some lovely dramatic scenery, and over the next 6 days we're going to be enjoying some of the most spectacular scenery as they run in a southerly direction along the Pacific Ocean. I hope you'll join us all week. I'm Matt Stevens, and I've been joined all week by Brian Smith. Welcome, Brian.
How you doing, Matt?
Not too bad. Wish I was riding in the sunshine. Looks like some Amiga Pharma Quick Step, of course, the team of Tom Bonan and Mark Cavendish, bringing him along to try and pick up some sprint stages. There are only really 2 sprint stages for the sprinters to contest, the one of them being today. Time trial tomorrow before we hit some very, very difficult mountain stages. We have 2 hilltop finishes in this race. Some semi-mountainous stages, and of course an individual time trial of 20.1 kilometers as early in the race as stage 2. So certainly going to favour the strong time trialists, and of course the out-and-out favourite in this year's Amgen Tour of California, without a doubt, Sir Bradley Wiggins. Apparently, Brian, back to his racing weight of 2012 when he won the Tour.
Yeah, he's looking good, and obviously the Amgen Tour of California is new to him. He'll want to come here and no doubt try and win the classification, but interestingly enough, the first few stages are going to be important for different reasons. Obviously today will be an opportunity for the sprinters, and there's plenty of them. We can go through them later on, but a certain Mark Cavendish is here. Peter Sagan is also here, so there is a lot of very good sprinters, and you know, it's about drawing first blood, getting that confidence up. As you rightly said, tomorrow's the time trial, and then we finish up Mount Diablo in stage 3. So after 3 days, we'll really know who the general classification contenders are for this year's 9th edition of the Amgen Tour of California. So it's an interesting start. Normally, Mount Diablo came a wee bit later on last year, but it's really straight up there straight away. So after a few days, we'll know who's in form and who's not in form.
I mean, yeah, let's go through some of the sprinters as we just go to the breakaway here. They're, I said they've got roughly, well, 76.3 kilometers to go. Martin Verschoor actually wasn't in the break. It was Matt Cook. We had some Duff information there. So it's Matt Cook from Jamis, another American rider. So the Americans out in force. Actually, we have 4 American Continental teams in the race this year, and obviously the Pro Continental setup of Team Novo Nordisk. And they've got some really good riders amongst them. They shouldn't be ruled out, of course. I'd imagine the American teams, the smaller American teams, as we see Isaac Bolivar. The first time that he's actually ridden in this race. A very capable climber on the United Healthcare team. Certainly at home in the mountains. But no, we have quite an interesting array of smaller teams. We have Fred Rodriguez, been around for years, rode with Mappa years ago. He's the current United States road champion, riding on the team of Jelly Belly. Arguably the most distinctive jersey in the peloton. Essentially looks like a bowl of sweets. And then we have the sprinter, Juan Jose Haedo, himself a five-time winner of various stages in the Tour of California, so a very experienced rider, pretty much heading up a young team of American riders. And then of course we have Theo Geoghegan-Hart. He's in the breakaway today, the youngest rider in the field. The Brit are riding on the Bissell development team, and the director sportif of Bissell Development, of course, is the son of the legendary Eddie Merckx, and that's Axel Merckx, and he has very high hopes of his team. As we have a look at the graphic here of where the actual the stage goes, so as we say, starts off in Sacramento, a clockwise route before dropping back into Sacramento. We actually have today 3 2-mile finish circuits before finishing just where the riders started. And again, historically, has been a bit of a sprint fest. We know a couple of years back in 2011, Ben Swift, who's not here, was fighting out in the Giro. The Team Sky won there, so it is a happy hunting ground for the sprinters. But at the moment, we're still 46.9 miles to go. The peloton gradually eating away into the lead of these riders, but they are still working very well together. And these, of course, Brian, you know these roads. I mean, these roads are the sorts of roads that are very, very easy to relay. They're nice and smooth, nice and wide, and it looks like a giant Shimano just setting a bit of a tempo on this track.
Well, this stage is obviously going to be a sprint stage, and that's why we're seeing at the head of the peloton, Giant Shimano riders and Omega Pharma Quickstep. Giant Shimano, both teams are in black and white, but Giant Shimano are the riders with the kind of stripes down the centre of the jersey. But Omega Pharma thinking of Cavendish, Degenkolb and Van Rensburg are here for Giant Shimano, so it's going to be interesting. Nice to see Jens Vogt on the right-hand side, the veteran of cycling, and he actually loves riding here in the States.
He's certainly one of the most aggressive and most loved riders in the peloton. He's 42 3/4 years of age. Over double the age of Theo Geoghegan-Hart is in the breakaway today, but super impressive. He's one of the most admired and best loved riders, and riding near the head of affairs there, not looking a day younger or a day older. Welcome back to stage 1 of the Tour of California, the Amgen Tour of California. We have a breakaway, 2 minutes and 40 in front of the peloton, 73.5 kilometers to go, 6 riders in front. I'll run through those riders for you. We have William Routley, who took the intermediate King of the Mountains, riding for Team Optum by Kelly Benefit Strategy. We have young Theo Geoghegan-Hart riding for the Bissell development team. We also have Martin Verschoor and Isaac Hernandez Bolivar from United Healthcare Pro Cycling, and Thomas Leeser from Belkin. But the peloton being led at the moment by Giant Shimano, no doubt thinking of their team leader, John Degenkolb, the German fast man, on form this season. Obviously took a podium place as well in Paris-Roubaix, so a man clearly on form. Can ride in the classics well, and obviously can take out bunch sprints very easily. Won Paris Tours, of course, last year. A remarkably strong team, Giant Shimano, in relation to sprinters. But of course, Omega Pharma Quickstep are there too, helping to share the pace, looking after the interests, Brian, of Mark Cavendish.
Yeah, straight off the back of 4 stage wins in the recent presidential Tour of Turkey, and obviously changed his plan this year. Normally he rides the Romandy and then goes on to ride the Giro d'Italia. So this year, because of a bit of illness, he was out of racing for about 4 weeks before the Tour of Turkey, which he absolutely enjoyed, winning 4 stages there. And this is why they've put kind of Martin Velits on the front of the main peloton to look after the interests of the stage coming to a sprint finish in Sacramento. Not the first time, because most of the time the Amgen Tour of California have come to Sacramento, we've had a sprint finish. You mentioned JJ Haedo. JJ Haedo was one of the riders, the sprinters that won a lot of stages in the early stages when it was only a 2.1 race. It's now obviously up to an HC, which is a kind of second category. Only one level above this would be World Tour. So, but the last person in this race today that's won in this finish in Sacramento is in fact Mark Cavendish himself, way back in 2010. But interesting to see this six-man breakaway. I doubt they're going to make it to the finish, but nice to see the Scottish rider at the front, the rider in white and red, Theo Geoghegan-Hart, and he just did a great place in the under-23 Liège, Bastogne-Liège, just a few weeks ago, and finishing a credible third. And this is a big step up for Theo, and he's grasped it with both hands today by getting in the breakaway.
Definitely, obviously, this move went very, very early in the day, and good to see Theo in the move, of course, a very young rider, only 19 years of age, but as I say, ably being managed by Axel Merckx, looking at bringing some of the younger riders through, and of course other riders on the Bissell development team. It's Tanner Putt from America, Nikolai Brochner, another, well, very fast sprinter, the sprinter on the Bissell development team, Clément Chervier from France, Gregory Daniel from the USA, Ryan Eastman from the USA, James Oram from New Zealand, who Axel Merckx himself has singled out to do well overall in this race, and Ruben Zepunkt from Germany. So a good flavour of international young riders, and riders that hopefully are looking to move on to the next level. And it's quite interesting that Bissell isn't just called Bissell, it's called Bissell Development Team, so it's purely about bringing riders on to the next stage.
Well, we can see over the last couple of years, even the Bontrager team, there's been a lot of riders that have gone forward. Lawson Craddock was picked up and noticed here by Giant Shimano, and he was given a contract with them. And he is number 81 riding for Giant Shimano team. And also Chad Hager, another very good rider, and obviously he was picked up by one of the World Tour teams. So there's a lot of riders a lot of teams look at this race, good performances by them, and you can only remember from last year, he stage one. Gianni Acevedo won a stage here, and obviously we picked up by Garmin Sharp. So it's a good hunting ground. If you're looking for good talent, then the Amgen Tour of California is a place to look at, because the stages are hard, and the local teams produce some very, very good riders. But at this moment in time, these 6 riders in the breakaway are being tracked by the riders from Giant Shimano and Omega Pharma Quickstep.
It's a race of contrast, and at this level 2.HC, it's an American race. That means that continental teams can ride at this level. But what you have is riders as young as Theo Geoghegan-Hart, obviously a rider of the future, and then you have a team. I mean, when you look at the squad of Omega Pharma Quickstep, it is a who's who of cycling, isn't it? I mean, let's read through the Omega Pharma Quickstep lineup. Tom Bonen, Mark Cavendish's wingman, Mark Renshaw is there, Nicky Terpstra, this year's winner of Paris-Roubaix, of course, Matteo Trentin, himself a winner of a stage in the Tour de France and part of that lead-out train, Guillaume van Kielsbroek as well, the Belgian, the all-round rouleur, of course, Carlos Verona, and then finishing off with Martin Vellet. So an amazingly strong team. So they really have brought a remarkably strong team over to this race to hunt out stage wins, I guess. And of course, it's a very, very popular race in terms of the coverage it gets from the media. And again, this is what Sky have said. This is the number 2 race in the year after the Tour de France for Sky.
You got to remember that this is important for Sky because of their sponsors, and also for Specialized. So you can understand why it's important for Omega Pharma Quickstep.
So stage 1 of the Amgen Tour of California is underway, and we have a 6-man group with 43.6 miles to go. The peloton chasing, led by Omega Pharma Quickstep and Giant Shimano, and we have 6 riders at the head of affairs, working very well together. Along the route today, they have snaffled up the King of the Mountains points and the intermediate hotspot sprints points. And it's worth noting that there are time bonuses at the hotspot sprints. 3 seconds, 2 seconds and 1 second for each of the hotspot sprints. And on stages, on all stages aside from the time trial stage and the 2 mountaintop finish stages, there are actually 10-second time bonuses 6-second time bonuses, and 4 for the first 3 riders. So on the assumption that the riders in the breakaway take all 3 hotspot sprints, none of the riders here, unless they of course win the stage, Brian, can take the overall classification. But with 10 seconds for first place, it looks like one of the main sprinters, if of course this breakaway is brought to heel, are going to take the yellow jersey.
Yeah, very much looks like that, which is, you know, fairly traditional in the Tour of California. But these 6 riders in front, just go through them again. The Belkin rider at the back is Tom Aliza. We also have Bolivar for United Healthcare. He is in the blue and the white. Planet for Novo Nordisk, 115, and he's in the pretty much the white kit with some kind of yellow and orange down the side. Well, Rutley there is from the Optum team. Again, a orange helmet he's got on, and tail we've already seen with the white with the red kit on for the Bissell development team. And Matt Cook for the Jamis team, also in here, the veteran 35-year-old American rider. And he recently rode well, so that's the rider in mostly the kind of black kit in this race. So 6 riders in front, and it's Damaso of Giant Shimano on the front, leading the way. Behind him is Martin Velits for Amiga Pharma Quickstep. So the 2 teams of the sprinters of Degenkolb and Mark Cavendish heading the front of the peloton.
Yeah, they've certainly got some serious firepower. Remarkably experienced at riding at the head of affairs for their team leaders, so they'll won't be too concerned about the gap at the moment. 68.9 k's to go, still 2 minutes and 40, but the leaders, Brian, still working very, very well together. It's worth actually touching on, I mean, a lot of viewers won't be overly familiar with some of the smaller American teams. It's worth running through. Bissell development team. Well, Bissell is actually home cleaning products, and they ride Trek bikes. Another interesting point of the young Bissell team, the Trek bikes they're riding are equipped with SRAM, and as many of you will know, Campagnolo, who make componentry, and Shimano, who make cycling componentry, have electric gears, and SRAM are one of the only companies who haven't. And we believe there's some prototype electric gear systems that SRAM are running on the young development team bikes. And then of course we have Jelly Belly, obviously the Jelly Bean company, and a Maxxis. So Jelly Belly, powered by Maxxis, are actually a tyre manufacturer. And the Optum, powered by Kelly and Benefit Strategies team, they're a global healthcare company. And Kelly Benefits is a US employee consultant. Another rider in the breakaway rides for Novo Nordisk, and as many of you will know, they're a very famous team. For one particular reason, is that Novo Nordisk is a global healthcare company with over 90 years of innovation and leadership in diabetes care. So all of the riders and many of the team staff do actually have type 1 diabetes, so riding for a particular cause. And of course Novo Nordisk do have a triathlon squad as well, and a running team and a swimming team, Brian, as well, just to promote more sport amongst people with living with type 1 diabetes.
No, it's a great cause. I know that one of my friends back in Scotland, his son Gavin Alexander is part of their development team, and you know, they rode the recent presidential tour of Turkey, so it's nice to see you know, obviously fighting diabetes, that great cause, getting some time on air, and nice to see them with one rider in this breakaway. That's the 115, second from the back there, Charles Planet, 20-year-old, so a neo-pro, so first time in this race, first time at this level, and nice to see a rider like that in the breakaway.
Definitely, as we head back to the peloton, still being led by Omega Pharma Quickstep. 6 riders still out in front, just under 70 kilometres to go. And of course there are some long flat roads now, this part of the world famous for a long straight and wide roads, and the final 20 or 25 kilometre run into Sacramento is almost like one long Roman road, Brian, isn't it, before we hit the small 2-mile finishing circuit, which is essentially an L shape with lots of right-hand corners. So it's going to be very technical, but of course all the sprinters teams and the sprinters, many of whom will know that finish very well, but it is going to be a case of getting in the right position at the right time, especially in that final corner, and there's a slight drag to the line as well.
Well, the good thing about it is 3 lanes wide all the way around the circuit, you know, with a long straight, fast finishing straight, plenty of time to manoeuvre, but you really have to have the lead-out train precise, because if you can go too early, you get swamped. So it'll be interesting to see. We do 3 laps of the 3.2 kilometre circuit when we get in. It'll be fast and furious, but this is a man that's obviously got a great future. He is obviously the youngest in the race. Finished a few weeks ago, third in the under-23 Bastogne-Liège, and you know, obviously proud to be here commentating on him, because I think he's got a bright future, and that's Theo Geoghegan Hart. So it's nice to see him in a good team and being looked after by Axel Merckx.
It certainly is. It's good to see such an aggressive spirit that he's showing. So please join us. We're just going to head to a commercial break. Please keep it here on Eurosport, the home of cycling.
Riding means fighting against wind. My bike was built to win this fight, with better aerodynamics, more stiffness, and more comfort. I can realize my passion. Maximum speed. Merida, more bike.
Tour de Azerbaijan. Moving ahead.
Race day fever, with all the colour and all the frills, and all the tensions and all the thrills, on one of the biggest occasions of the year. Horse racing time with the Kentucky Derby, Tuesday at 12:15 on Eurosport.
Horse racing time, in association with Longines.
Welcome back to stage 1 of the Amgen Tour of California, from Sacramento to Sacramento. And we have 6 riders out in front, out of the peloton, chasing at 2 minutes 35. These riders been out in front all day. They've snaffled up, taken all the hotspot sprint along the route today, and a 3rd category King of the Mountains. A very good average speed being set today on the smooth roads of California. Strong sunshine beating down on their backs all day long, hardly a cloud in the sky. And the breakaway consists of Thomas Liese, the Dutch rider on the Belkin Pro Cycling team, as we just take a look at the head of the peloton. Also Hernandez Bolivar, the Colombian for United Healthcare Pro Cycling, is there. Charles Planet, the young Frenchman, 20 years of age, riding for Team Novo Nordisk. William Routley, 30 years of age, riding on the Team Optum by Kelly Benefit Strategies in the break. And then the youngest rider in the breakaway, finishing off the 6-man leading group, is Theo Geoghegan Hart, only 19 years of age, riding on the Bissell development team. This group still working very, very well together. Still a considerable lead, 2 minutes 35, but out the head of affairs, and have been relaying since we've come on air, are the Giant Shimano team and the Amiga Pharma Quick Step squads, looking after their respective sprinters, and what sprinters they are. Of course, Mark Cavendish, the British road race champion, former green jersey wearer in the Tour de France. It would probably take me about 15 minutes to list his absolutely glittering palmares, but he is a man on form, off the back of 3 stage wins, of course, in the Tour of Turkey. And this is the first time that Mark Cavendish has ridden this race in a few years. Normally goes to the Giro d'Italia before moving on to the Tour. But a bit of a change of plan this year for Mark, but he will certainly be eyeing the stage win today. But of course the general classification, of the yellow jersey. Favourite for this particular race is Sir Bradley Wiggins of Team Sky, back to racing weight of 2012 when of course he took the Tour de France, and shortly after that the Olympic Games time trial. Of course, Bradley Wiggins on very good form at the moment, or coming into good form anyway. He rode a very good Paris-Roubaix, finishing 9th, rode very aggressively as well and finishing 32nd in Flanders, and of course rode well in Italy a few weeks back, a race that Cadel Evans won. So Bradley Wiggins just coming into form at the right time, and this particular race, aside from getting a place in the Tour de France team to look after Chris Froome, is a target for him. As we head back to the breakaway, and that's William Routley, the Canadian, getting in a very interesting aero tuck, riding on the Optum team in the black jersey with the orange and gold accents. And of course, the other rider in that breakaway, Thomas Lees. It looks like there should be now, the profile of the race, Brian, is gradually dropping before we hit completely flat before the run into Sacramento, and the roads are straight. You could have a 3 or 4 minute lead and you'll be able to see the leaders up in front.
Well, it's quite common in this part of the world, you know, because it's so flat. A lot of California, although you know this race is going to go into some of the mountains. Mount Diablo is a fantastic race, fantastic stage last year, won by Leo Koenig. Leo Koenig not here. He's got a knee injury, but he's got an apt replacement in Tiago Machado. So Machado is here, is leading the NetApp Endura team. So yeah, there's a lot of teams that will not get to talk too much about today. They'll just be sitting back and you know, thinking of the time trial tomorrow and Mount Diablo stage in stage 3. They're the GC contenders, but this is a stage for the sprinters. And as you said, Matt, we go out of Sacramento, which is pretty flat, and we head towards the climbs. We do one climb today, and that's already been topped, and that was won by Will Routley. So Will Routley for the Optum team, he's the rider in the orange helmet. He'll be the person on the podium. So there was a battle for that, because everybody knows that you know, first across the line would have to go on to the podium as the King of the Mountains, and that is a polka dot jersey. So he'll have that on tomorrow. So already good news for the Optum team, because they'll have a podium place. So if this breakaway, no doubt it'll be brought back, at least you know, one of the American teams and sponsors will get on the podium.
Definitely, it's always very good for the smaller teams. Generally they do have limited ambitions on the overall classification, and maybe don't have the same sort of firepower when it comes to the bunch sprint. So their opportunities to get publicity for their respective sponsors is to get out early, ride aggressively, penetrate these early moves, and then pick up hotspot sprint points and of course mountains points when they can. And it's always a very proud moment for some of the smaller teams to get coverage and get in these jerseys. And while we're talking of jerseys, Brian, let's run through the classifications we've got. Obviously we have the Amgen Race Leaders jersey, which is a yellow jersey with some blue accents on it. And then we have the Michelob Ultra King of the Mountains leader jersey. Again, the classic leader's jersey for the King of the Mountains, as per the Tour de France. They're white with the polka dots. And then we have the Visit California Sprint leader's jersey, and that's again a similar jersey to the green jersey in the Tour de France, in that there's points for the first 15 across the line at the finishes, as well as points for the first 3 at the hotspots points. So as well as time bonuses, there are hotspots, and they're combined. So there isn't a separate hotspot sprints jersey, but that they count for the overall green jersey. And the best young rider jersey is called the Crunches jersey, and that's a white jersey with a green Argyle pattern on it, and you'll be able to see all these jerseys on the podium later on today, and obviously in the peloton tomorrow. And the final jersey is the Amgen Breakaway from Cancer Most Courageous Rider jersey, and essentially that goes to the rider who most embodies the spirit of people who are fighting against cancer, and will go towards, I guess, the most aggressive and spirited ride of the day.
Just watching the peloton here, Matt, there's a wee bit more urgency to try and stay near the front. So the wind is blowing, and we've already said we're off the mountains and on the flat, and when the wind blows in the flat, we could possibly see echelons. We saw it last year, but we're now looking at one of the favourites for today's stage, and a rider that knows the Tour of California very well.
Of course, Peter Sagan, the prodigiously talented Slovak road champion, already had a very good season, but again he's took out over the years 10 stages. There was a couple of years ago, Brian, if no doubt you remember well, you commentating on this race, well, he could almost win at will. It was quite astonishing. But I think now, I would say, looking at going through casting an eye over the start list, this is without doubt the best Tour of California field that we've seen. And this, of course, in its 9th incarnation, and it's the eighth time that Amgen have actually sponsored it. But no, you're quite right. Some of the sections on the run into Sacramento are quite exposed. The roads are very wide, and that's why Bradley Wiggins is making sure he's at the head of affairs, being looked after there by the German rider Christian Nies.
Yeah, as we said, there's a bit of urgency to get towards the front. Diego Machado just for Netap Endura just going by there. So yeah, there's a change of direction coming up. Big wide roads at this moment in time, as you normally get in the States, especially here in California, but a bit more urgency. Nice to see the Bissell team up towards the front, but they don't want to really add to the pace, because obviously they have a rider in the breakaway of Theo Geoghegan-Hart. But Team Sky have come to the front. Yeah, they want to keep Bradley Wiggins out of trouble. And you know, if it does go into echelons, you can just see a lot of shouting. But if it does go into echelons, you can see in this part of the road the wind coming from the right to the left, and obviously a lot smaller road. So the shout is going up. This is a key part to try and stay near the front. So we go from a big wide road to this dual lane. So it's interesting to see that the teams are treating this part of the road very seriously.
Yeah, definitely. Well, Team Sky don't appear to have brought, well, looking down the listing of Team Sky riders, they don't appear to have brought a sprinter. We know Luke Rowe has got a reasonable kick, the Welshman, of course, but it more looks like that team is going to be built around looking after Bradley Wiggins and his interests. He's on his own tomorrow, of course, in the time trial, and then the rest of the team are built around basically trying to win this race overall. And there he is, as we see Team Sky lined out in a little echelon there, and it's spreading out here, but the wind, as you say, Brian, is coming from the right hand side. We'll take another commercial break. Please stay with us now. Of course, Eurosport, the home of cycling. Welcome back to stage 1 of the Amgen Tour of California. We have a breakaway of 6 riders out in front with a lead of around 2 havoc. There's no hedges at all, hardly any bushes or Aussie Zach Dempster, who's managed to penetrate that first echelon, and Team Sky pretty much sensed what was going on there. Obviously these riders in front oblivious to the difficulties that the peloton is in at the moment, but 58.1 kilometers to go. The gap now come down to only 1 minute 30, so in the last few kilometers the speed of the peloton has really eaten into the 6 leaders, who are still working very well, but the wind really playing a part now, Brian.
Well, you could see it happening. It wasn't that hard. You know, it's not rocket science when you see Team Sky go up towards the front. Obviously, they looked at the map, they looked at the wind direction, they looked at the conditions of the road, came up towards the front. We could see a battle, we could see some urgency. We mentioned it in their own commentary before it actually happened. Now we've got a group of about 20 riders going down the roads, and we have to see who has been caught out here, because there's a lot of riders come here. The first stage of a stage, you know what it's like, Matt. First stage, you sit back there thinking, oh, we're going to have a sprint finish today. We can afford to sit back, relax, the sun's out. But no, these guys are here to race, and it's a good combination there. Greg Van Avermaet for the BMC comes towards the front. You can see the riders from Omega Pharma happy to push it on. Sky are happy to push it on. You see, as I said, a couple of riders from Netap Endura, one from Belkin, but I cannot really say. I think Mark Cavendish is just in the centre line now, just on the right hand side, the small figure in the British Championship jersey. So Tom Boonen comes to the front. These guys love these crosswinds. They want to push it out, but Bradley Wiggins comes through a shot now. Luke Rose also in there, the Welshman for Team Sky, but I can't see Peter Sagan. This is a very interesting mood. Greg Van Avermaet, one of the animators of the Spring Classics. Taylor Phinney comes there. A couple of, there's Zach Dempster, the rangy Australian riders. This is a very select group. There's Mark Renshaw as well for Omega Pharma Quickstep. This is a very elite split. It looks like about 20-25 riders have gone clear. We think Mark Cavendish is in there. This is very, very early on in the race. This is stage 1, of course. We had it down as a sprinters race, but the wind is tearing it to pieces.
pieces. So this is fantastic stuff, very exciting, more reminiscent of a Belgian classic. But look at that, it completely exposed. You don't actually need that much wind when the landscape is like that to cause a problem. All the good riders can sense it, the riders with experience. Obviously Bradley Wiggins knew what was going on, Tom Bonen, but of course, as well as their experience, their combined firepower, it's going to be difficult to get that back group, that group back, Brian.
Yeah, you can see the Mark Cavendish. Yeah, you can see the British champion there on the far side. 4-stage wins the Tour of Turkey. He's not going to miss out in this. He's obviously an intelligent bike rider. Tom Boonen is a rider on his wheel for Omega Pharma Quickstep. So they are there in numbers. It's just who's missed out. We haven't obviously caught sight of the bunch and who's actually trying to ride this down. But Mark Cavendish now coming through to do his turn at the front. He's in determined mood. He wants to win this race today. Matteo Trentin also in this front group, so they have a lot of numbers, but the gap to the front of the race must be coming down very, very quickly. Now we're seeing the front of the peloton and no real concerted chase by the other kind of World Tour teams. It
looks like Belkin are the main team to have missed it, and of course Belkin have brought a good, strong, good team along. Lawrence Tendam would be their man for the overall classification, of course, top 15 last year in the Tour de France, and of course Lars Baum and Moreno Hofland, two very, very talented fast men who have been looking to the finish today. But at the moment their chances of a sprint finish are going out the window, because this select group of elite riders is going clear at the moment. Look at the determination on the face of Sir Bradley Wiggins as Matteo Trentin, the Italian on the Omega Pharma Quickstep team, with a tiny little goatee beard, goes to the front. And I tell you what, it looks like also Orica Green Edge, and the team of, they brought Matt Goss, of course, the fast man, the Aussie fast man on that team, previous winner of Milan San Remo. Quite a couple of years, Brian, for Matt Goss, not quite the man he was a couple of years back, but look at the determination on the face of Tom Bonen. Of course, he's got those World Championship stripes on his sleeves, denoting he was a former World Road Race champion, of course. Of course, won Paris-Roubaix on 4 occasions and a man in form, but look how ripped and thin Bradley Wiggins was there. As we see, a counter-attack here from one of the riders from United Healthcare.
Well, you can just see, we just said the gap to the front of the race is going to come down very, very quickly. We've just been shown it now, that quick, that it's all over for the breakaway. I think this rider from United Healthcare, which is Isaac Bolivar, the Colombian rider, 23-year-old, must have looked around and saw, where did they come from? And they decided to try and go on the attack. I tell you what, young man, save your energy, you're going to need it, because the big guns are firing. Yeah, that is probably, with the greatest of respect to this rider, not the most intelligent things to have done. He needs to just sit in the wheels, make sure he doesn't get too near the back, because if you get last man in one of these echelons, you can be out in the wind. You need to sit as tightly as you can to the wheel in front, and obviously you can see that the wind is coming from the right-hand side, hence this shaped echelon. And again, Bradley Wiggins certainly isn't shirking the work. It looks like the rangy, tall figure of Luke Rowe himself has had a tremendous classics campaign. Luke Rowe really maturing. But look at that, the aerial view, and it's the Orica and Belkin. Looks like a couple of the American teams are helping, but no real concerted chase there, and it looked like nearly a crash. That was a bit tight, but yep, this is a very, very interesting set of circumstances. We head to the front, and Theo Geoghegan Hart is actually working. That group has obviously been mopped up, or tail was actually brought back. The wind absolutely wreaking havoc here, Brian. Yeah, one rider with his hand up coming through the middle of the peloton, and as I said, there's only so many riders can get on an echelon. They should actually form another echelon, because that's quite the norm in a lot of these races. And where it's starting to split now, there's no shelter whatsoever. So when it starts splitting like this, it's better to actually move to the right hand side and form another echelon and start to ride. But this is a strong group in front. Majority of the strong riders are here. Kind of disappointed that Peter Sagan has obviously been asleep down the back of the peloton. We can see that a couple of riders from the Trek Factor racing team in here. I think one of them is Irizar, number 32. Zach Dempster, very astute at these kind of conditions, and you know, as I said, these riders are strong, and they'll want to continue with this group in front. It does. It looks like the figure. It looks like Moreno Hofland from Belkin is there. But notable by their absence in terms of numbers are the white, green and blue of Orica Green Edge. They've had, oh no, I can see one rider just at the back there. Orica have made it. So at the moment, most of the World Tour teams seem to have riders in the front group, which means it's left to the smaller, weaker
continental teams and pro-continental teams to try and chase this down. There's a few passengers in this group. They'll be happy to just let the strong men roll through and make the pace. But it looks like this group is going away. You can see what's happening behind.
That's
it's
the damage
absolute
at the
carnage.
back. That's the guys that are going out the back. There must have been about 4 from the Norvo Nordic. What are you laughing at? This is
just
great.
the wind. It's I don't know. I'm not laughing. It's sometimes it's just amazing to see. You know, when you expect a stage to run a certain course and the wind plays its part. It's like that stage in the Tour de France, of course, that Mark Cavendish won last year. Just shows the wind can play a major part. So, stage 1 of the Amgen Tour of California, and it's all happening. We had an early breakaway that got a lead of about 4 minutes at its maximum, taking the first King of the Mountains points. But over the last few kilometers, as the road has slowly leveled out, we've come into the flatlands on the approach to Sacramento. We'll be facing 3 2-mile finishing circuits, but in the wind, the echelons have formed, and it's the experienced and strong riders who have moved to the front in the shape of Taylor Phinney, Greg Van Avermaet, Tom Bonen. Hopefully we'll get some more numbers. We've got Luke Rowe, the Welshman, riding on Team Sky. So Bradley Wiggins, the race favourite, is there. Zach Dempster is also there for NetApp Endura. Of course, NetApp Endura last year won with Leopold Koning. Unfortunately, he's not here. He won the mountaintop finish last year. So Zach Dempster at the moment making up for that. We've got Mark Renshaw, Mark Cavendish's main lead-out rider, back on Omega Pharma Quickstep. He's in the move. Mark Cavendish himself is there. We've got Elizar for a Trek Factory Racing. They're going to be looking after the interests of Matthew Bush, the American on the team, who rode for 6th place overall. But at the moment, the bunch are slowly being distanced. Well, there's not much of a bunch. There's riders at 6s and 7s all over the place on these low flatlands, which have been ripped to shreds by this crosswind coming from the right-hand side. As you see, Bradley Wiggins in that distinctive style that he's got. And look, Brian, how thin Bradley Wiggins is at the moment. He said in the press conference he was back to the raceway of the Tour de France. He does look to be a man on a mission.
Yeah, and you would think that you know, a lot of the kind of time trial specialists, maybe the GC contenders, would be thinking, well, today's going to be a sprint stage, we can afford to kind of sit back and you know, with the time trial tomorrow and also the Mount Diablo stage, that we won't be called into having to ride hard. But they've got it so wrong. We sat in our commentary box and we could see it was going to happen. We knew that there was a bit of urgency there, and this is what happens. You have to be attentive here in the Tour of California. It happened in the crosswinds last year, and first stage, bang, there you go. It only takes a few minutes, and you find yourself a minute down the road.
This group working very well indeed. You are completely right, of course, Brian. It does look like we've got 2 Belkins. Now we've dropped to the back of this lead group. We can see who the other riders are. There does appear to be at least 3 riders from Trek Factory Racing. Of course, Trek Factory Racing in the black and white kit, primarily black with the white right arm. We have Markel Urizar from Spain in there. Danny Van Poppel, the very good young sprinter from the Netherlands, the son, of course, of Jean-Paul Van Poppel, the winner of the green jersey back in 1987 of the Tour de France. So Trek there in numbers, Team Sky there in numbers, Omega Pharma Quickstep. I must admit, one of the main teams that I haven't noticed any riders yet, Brian, yet picking it out, is Garmin Sharp.
Yeah, they are obviously disappointed having missed this out, and they aren't, you know, one rider towards the back here, they aren't even riding to try and help this down. Nathan Brown sitting at the back here, it's the wrong place to be, but yeah, there's a few teams that won't be happy with this, but they have to get organised. You've got to remember, Matt, in this type of level event, a 2-point HC, there's no race radials. So when the echelons are happening, you have to keep your eyes open. A lot of the riders will not know who's in front because the team cars are not allowed to go up because of the kind of echelons, and the race is all strung out. If you went up to say to the chief commissaire and said, can I go up and speak to the riders, you're going to get a no because the race is on. So again, only the riders in front will have a look around. They'll say, yeah, this is good for us, and continue on. That's why we see Omega Pharma Quickstep pushing on here, because they have got numbers. They have got the fastest man in the world here, Mark Cavendish, and it's flat all the way towards the finish. Taylor Phinney is also here, and obviously Greg Van Avermaet. So 2 strong riders for BMC, so they're happy to ride. But it's going to be interesting. Just when everybody thought, and we said ourselves at the top of the programme, a nice and easy stage, 120 miles, going to be a sprint finish. bang, these sort of things happen.
That's great. This is why I love cycling so much. It can be predictable. These are the long, look at that aerial shot there, heading into Sacramento in a southwesterly direction. That's where the race is heading back to. Of course, we're going to be covering 3 laps of 2 miles. It's a circuit that many of you will be familiar with. Sacramento has been visited on several occasions over the years. Of course, Mark Cavendish winning there a few years back. And of course, Ben Swift taking victory there in 2011, and Greg Henderson, I believe, won there in on the same year as well for Team Sky, taking 2 stage victories. But at the moment, Amiga Pharma Quickstep and Team Sky, as well as Trek Factory Racing and Belkin, have the upper hand, really riding well together. And this is what these guys are best at. They're riding in the wind. Obviously, the classic season wasn't that long ago. We certainly didn't expect to see this sort of action so early in the stage, Brian, but of course, the unpredictable nature of this sport. It's a sport where you have to be attentive all the time. Although you might look at the profile, you have the team meeting in relation to what you think is going to happen. You can't just assume that that's going to pan out. You have to be alert at all times, especially on the finale, and especially knowing that you've got a very, very exposed landscape and a straight road on the running.
The thing is, Matt, you mentioned the press conference. You mentioned that Bradley Wiggins is here. He's already said he's feeling good, he's fit. He's come here to possibly add this to his palmarès, because the Amgen Tour of California is a big race. We don't often see Bradley Wiggins riding in the States, so he'll want to come here. He's come here with good form. He wants to show himself. He wants to look at, obviously, riding the Tour de France, which starts in Yorkshire. So he's got something to prove, and he's come here to try and do this. And you know, we could see Team Sky come up towards the front. We've seen a couple of the young Bissell development team. Axel Merckx knows his way around the Tour of California. So they came up, put the pressure on. Everybody's seen it, but it looks as if a lot of the riders and teams just fell asleep or never had the legs.
So, stage 1 of the Amgen Tour of California, and as we head into the finish, the speeds are high and the peloton has detonated in the crosswinds as we head into Sacramento, and the break contains some of the superstars of this race. So Bradley Wiggins is there. Well, that's talking of superstars. This could be a superstar of the future. Young Theo Guggenhardt of the Bissell development team, 19 years of age, the youngest rider in the race. A very brave attack early in the day, was part of the 6-man move that went away very early and stole a march of up to 4 minutes. Took the first 2 hotspot sprint and of course the mountains. And now that breakaway has been caught and absorbed by this the counter move that was split in these crosswinds. What a fantastic aerial shot there. You've got the bunch on the right-hand side of your screen, and just rounding the bend is the leading group, containing some of the strongest classic riders and strongest sprinters in the world.
Yeah, we see this happening a lot, especially when we look back to the start of the year with the Tour of Qatar. Now we're seeing in California, a couple of months down the line after the classics, we see Tom Bonin up there pushing away in the front group. But it does look as if the peloton have recognised you know, who's in the front group, what's happened, and you know, there's a bit more of a concerted chase now. But you can just see still the teams of Trek Factory Racing, Sky, BMC, Omega Pharma Quickstep are the teams that want to push forward. Now I think Belkin have decided, well, we may as well ride as well. They have got 2 riders in this front group, so yeah, it's interesting to see the tactics if they continue to ride. But there's a lot of teams, as you've mentioned. Garmin Sharp, the American World Tour team, have missed out here. When we look through at the other teams that have missed out, there's one rider in here from Orica Green Edge, but they have got no real numbers. Cannondale aren't here at all. Team Giant Shimano, I think there might have been one in here, but I can't see too many of them. But they were riding pretty much all day with Omega Pharma Quickstep to you know, to keep the original breakaway of 6 riders to heal. But I tell you what, it's blown apart in a few kilometres, and you can just see now the Omega Pharma Quickstep are not using all of the roads. They've kind of pushed everybody over to the right hand side because there's a few passengers, as you've seen. And if you're not going to ride, we'll put you in the gutter.
Well, the peloton now, this lead group have now got a lead of 40 seconds. Confirmed there are 18 riders in that group, and as you know, Brian, we were both professional riders a long time ago now, but if you're an elite group and you do know there's some passengers, especially on the flatlands, and you know that there's a particular wind direction, all you're going to do is make enough room for the riders that are making the pace, and the rest are going to have to suffer. And believe you me, what that does sometimes, it does actually generate a little bit of impetus into the riders that are sitting on, because it's actually harder riding on the wheels in the gutter than actually riding through at the front. And sometimes riders will get spat out of the back because it's extremely challenging, especially in the on the roads of Flanders, in Belgium, northern France, etc. But that's where these guys have earned a living. It's basically where these guys have learnt their trade. As we see, a puncture, unfortunately, for one of the Trek Factory Racing riders. Of course, SRAM are providing the neutral service in the Tour of California this year with team vehicles, of course, neutral service vehicles and motorbikes. But that was an okay change.
Danny Van Poppel, he was in the lead group breakaway now. So
that's a big shame.
Unfortunately for him, and I said the gap is not enough. It has to be over a minute for the service, your own service vehicle to be there. We now see the main peloton, the main front. I think this is Cône de Corte for Giant Shimano, but again, a wee lesson here that if you're not going to ride through with us, then we'll put you in the gutter. As soon as they do that, as soon as Mark Cavendish said, look, we're putting them in the gutter, you now get some of the passengers at the back now starting to do the turn.
Exactly. It's rather than trying to wave people through and shout, it's a matter of actions speak louder than words. Stick them in the gutter, have a little look round, and they'll either start working or they'll be spat out the back. But a great shot there. We've talked earlier on about how straight this route is. As we go to the graphic, showing you the clockwise route that we've already taken. Obviously, traditionally, some very straight roads in the United States. Of course, over the Category 3 climb and dropping back in a southerly direction through the El Dorado Hills, into Slough House and into Sacramento. And while we look at that route map, at the top part of the route map before we go back to the race, Brian, the race actually went through a little town today called Cool. Called Cool.
Yeah, well, it's not cool at the moment.
It certainly isn't.
This pace is hotting up, and it hotted up about 5-6 kilometres ago, and I can't see it easing off all the way in towards the finish. You get the former Tour de France winner, Brad Wiggins from 2012, and obviously Olympic time trial champion on the front. And now we see everybody prepared to do the turn. Nice to see some of the original breakaway still in this front group. I think some of them have departed out the back of this main peloton. This main front group. So we had an original breakaway of 6 riders. I know that Theo Geoghegan Hart is still in this front group. Tom Leeser is still in this front group. So, but you can just see now the back of this group, how many passengers have we got. And it does look as if we've just got one Orica Green Edge rider just at the back. But now we've got a change of direction now. And this might come into a bit more of a headwind now, so it gives an opportunity for the peloton behind to get organised and maybe try to bring these back.
We head back to the group, and it's Bradley Wiggins. As you said, Brian, there has been a change of wind direction. The riders have turned right, and obviously are now swapping turns in a different direction. Obviously they will swap turns they were swapping turns the other way around when the wind was to the right. But actually it still seems like it's coming more to the right than anywhere else, as we see Taylor Phinney riding through on the front. There does appear to be 2 riders from NetApp Endura there, and the break was 18 riders. It's now down to 15 riders, so it looks like, Brian, some of those riders were put in the gutter. Of course, we lost Van Poppel through an unfortunate puncture, but possibly a couple have been dropped just under the speed, and obviously the difficult conditions, the wind. But this is a very, very elite group. You could just see Luke Rowe there, and Tom Boonen on a bespoke paint job, custom Specialized frame there, not riding in the team colours. We know that Specialized have done him a custom paint job just for this race, as it happens. Bradley Wiggins on the tops there, not riding on the drops. A particularly distinctive style of Bradley Wiggins there, turning the pedals, turning a bit of a slightly more lower cadence than he used to turn. Research in the wind tunnel has suggested that he's more efficient on a lower cadence, and that's his number 106. And that's Andreas Schillinger, the German rider who joins Zach Dempster, so very, very good to see two riders from NetApp Endura in the move, as they're riding very, very attentively, as Matteo Trentin, the Italian, on Amiga Farmer Quickstep, and Bonin again taking his turn. This guy isn't shirking at all. Tom Bonin churning those pedals, heel down, full of power, and absolute power on it. Just like a beast on a bicycle, as Bradley Wiggins now takes to the front. But a very, very elite breakaway run. So welcome, British viewers, to stage one, live of the Amgen Tour of California, and what a stage it's been so far. We were talking at the top of the program that this could be a stage for the sprinters. We had a six-man move early in the day that stole a march on the peloton, containing young Theo Geoghegan-Hart. It had Charles Planet from Team Novo Nordisk. There was William Routley, who took the King of the Mountains sponsor. He'll be in the King of the Mountains jersey. Thomas Leeser from Belkin, and United Healthcare's Hernandez Bolivar. But that has all changed. That group has been absorbed. And the crosswind section on the approach to Sacramento, the crosswinds have split the bunch asunder, and we have an elite group now at the head of affairs. 45 seconds is the lead with 38.4 kilometers to go. And the group contains Taylor Phinney, Greg Van Avermaet, Tom Bonin, Mark Cavendish, Mark Renshaw, Matteo Trentin, Luke Rowe, Sir Bradley Wiggins, Tour de France winner, of course, in 2012, and one of the, well, the outstanding and overwhelming favourite for this race, of course. We have two riders from Belkin Pro Cycling in there, one of them being Moreno Hofland, two riders from Team NetApp Endura also there, and those being the Aussie Zachary Dempster, or Zach, and Andreas Schillinger, the German, and a couple of riders also from Trek Factory Racing in there. So a very, very elite group of riders, all working very well. And Brian, this wasn't what we expected, but it's just great for the race. We didn't expect it to be torn asunder in such a fashion so early on.
No, this is fantastic. We can see it happening, and it's easy for us ex-professionals sat here in the commentary box commentating on it. It's a different story, you know, seeing it happen on our screens and being there. But I just noticed towards the back that Matt Goss is the Orica Green Edge rider at the back, and obviously he's got a fast sprint on him. Mark Cavendish just kind of swung out, and I think went back to talk to him because obviously they're former teammates. So it's it'll be interesting to see what happens. But again, this is one of the riders that are missing out, Peter Sagan. I think he's won about 10 stages of the Tour of California. So again, if he wants to try and win today, he's going to have to commit some riders towards the front. You can see the main peloton, they are still riding. The gap is still hovering about 40-45 seconds, but strong riders in front. They've proven that over the last kind of 10-15 kilometres, but we do have a few passengers towards the back now.
We certainly do. There's also a rider from Giant Shimano, who we just need to name check in there.
Koen de Kort.
Koen de Kort, the Dutchman, more than happy riding on these sorts of roads, but the lead gradually increasing. There doesn't appear to be a lot of cohesion from behind. There's a few riders, United Healthcare, one of the teams, who appear to be riding on the front, but no, doesn't appear that Sagan has got Cannondale to ride at the moment, which is quite interesting. I would imagine he might be looking at possibly further stages. Isn't here so much for the overall, but of course will be very disappointed, and as you correctly said, Brian, he is the rider who's won the most stages over the years, 10 stages overall over the past few years. Of course, this is the 9th running of the Amgen Tour of California, and it's the 8th time that Amgen have been the title sponsor, as Bradley Wiggins takes to the front yet again. I think between him and Tom Boone and Brian, they've been doing the most between them on the front.
Yeah, it does look like that way as Taylor Phinney comes up for BMC in the Reds. But again, there's a lot of pressure on a lot of these teams to deliver. Trek Factory Racing come towards the front in the black with the white sleeves. But it's all been Team Sky. It started this, obviously joining in Omega Pharma Quickstep. So interesting to see now that we've got maybe a bit more of kind of headwind now, if the teams in the peloton decide to put numbers towards the front to bring it back, because there's some strong guys in here that could take this all the way towards the finish.
Definitely, the aerial shot there that just does suggest there does appear to be a little bit more cohesion, but they are riding into a headwind. But please stay with us. We're going to head towards a commercial break. We'll see you in a few minutes. Eurosport, the home of cycling. back to stage 1 of the Tour of California, the Amgen Tour of California. Earlier on in the race we had 6 riders that took a lead of around 4 minutes, but they were brought back after the couple of climbs we had midway through the race. But now on the flat and exposed run into Sacramento, that break was absorbed by a rampaging lead group of around 25 riders, which was split by the efforts of the combined efforts of Team Sky and Amiga Pharma Quickstep here at the head of affairs in the shape of Tom Bonan and Mark Cavendish. Matteo Trentin, of course, is also there. This lead group of around, 18 riders strong at one point, had a lead of 45 seconds, but now the peloton has finally got together and are starting to chase hard. The main rider in the bunch who's missed that, and one of the superstars that's missed that move, was Peter Sagan. And there are a couple of other teams who have missed the move, but most of the World Tour teams are here. This break working very, very well together at the moment, notably Bradley Wiggins riding very, very hard at the front, and Tom Bonan. And there we have Greg Van Avermaet, the classic specialist, being followed by the young Taylor Phinney. So Bonan's there, Matteo Trentin, Michael Urizar is also there, Steyen is there, Bradley Wiggins and Luke Rowe complete the group. Of course, the Welshman, just see Bradley Wiggins riding through. But Brian, surprisingly, that lead now down to 20 seconds. It was up to 45 seconds at one point. Who do you think's riding behind him? I mean, we didn't see Cannondale there. We haven't had a lot of close shots at the front of the group, but there certainly seems, from the aerial shots, that there is some cohesion behind.
Yeah, there must be. We come off the crosswind section into a bit more of a headwind section. Now we're seeing the front of the peloton, a lot of mixture of teams. We already mentioned that Garmin Sharp have missed out. BMC really wanting. We've had an accident at the back of the peloton. A couple of riders have been down. So yeah, a lot of pushing and shoving, touch of wheels, and bang, down you come. So you see, I think it was Jonathan Waters trying to run up and help out there for the Garmin Sharp. So unfortunately for one of the Novo Nordisk team, he'll have to chase and try and get back on. But yeah, it's been all action over the last 15-20 kilometres. Diego Machado's come here for NetApp Endura to ride well. They have got 2 riders in the breakaway, Schillinger and Dempster, but again, they want to bring it back because they are here not for stage wins, they're here for the overall. So you can see a lot of the teams now really driving the front of the peloton. Belkin are here, Garmin Sharp, NetApp Endura are joining in the party, even the team of Giant Shimano.
So we're going to have a slow-mo of the crash here. But of course, these roads, these American roads, well, there's the crash just in the middle of the peloton near their lines there. A couple of riders tangled from Trek Factory Racing and Garmin Sharp, and a Novo Nordisk rider there, of course. But this happens, you can tell by those pine trees there. There isn't a great lot of wind, but when you have such exposed, open conditions, only the smallest gusts of winds can wreak havoc. But it does look like the peloton are going to regain contact. And of course, on these long straight roads, you have your foil in sight, your quarry is there, and it's easy to focus. Despite the strength in front, these guys are relaying very, very well, and it looks like the breakaways' days are numbered now.
Yeah, it does so, and it does look as if after that bit of action in the crosswinds that it's all coming back together. So unfortunately for this Garmin Sharp rider, he has hit the deck, and that's Rowan Dennis, the young Aussie, very good prospect for the future. Rode tremendously well in a few stage races last year, so unfortunately for him, in the first stage of the Amgen Tour of California, he's hit the deck, but I think he'll get back on. He's behind the team car, and it does look as if this race is all going to come back together.
It certainly does. As we head to the back and just see the rangy figure of Zach Dempster, a very, very good sprinter himself, good all-round rider on the NetApp Endura team. But the great aerial shot there, it does look as if the gap is, no, it says there 15 seconds. I'll suggest it's more like 10. But Garmin Sharp and NetApp Endura relaying at the front and now being joined by Giant Shimano and riders from Belkin, all looking after their respective sprinters. And one of the main sprinters who missed that move, of course, was John Degenkolb. He's had an outstanding year so far. Podium in Paris-Roubaix, of course. What an all-round rider, and definitely, well, hardly a prospect for the future because he's got some fantastic results at the moment. But well, it's going to be a danger, as we can see. The skyline of Sacramento in the distance with only 24.9 kilometers to go. This is a straight run in, but of course we do have a finish circuit. We have 3 laps of 2 miles. A circuit, Brian, you know very well, you've been on the ground there. What's the circuit like technically?
It's not too bad because it's 3 lanes wide, so plenty of space, but the speed will be on. It's not too technical. It's you have to judge the finish correctly, because it is kind of long, straight finish, 3 lanes wide, and so you have to, you know, get your sprinter in the best possible position, and very difficult to be able to do that. And so, not too technical, big wide roads, and we are expecting a bunch finish. Things changed about 20 kilometres ago because of the crosswinds, but it does look as if it is all coming back together. And Cannondale have done no work whatsoever, and we've seen a lot of strong rides by the Omega Pharma Quickstep. So have they done too much in that crosswind section? Have they tired themselves out? Mark Cavendish has been riding while Peter Sagan has been just kind of sitting in the bunch, and they're committing, you know, 1 or 2 riders towards this chase. But again, it's who's got enough energy left when it comes down to the sprint in the end. Still a bit of a crosswind from the right-hand side, but it does look as if this group in front will be brought back, and maybe we might get a counter-attack. Maybe the teams will keep riding for a sprint finish, because, as I said, we're inside the last 15 miles.
We certainly are, and it's BMC now riding on the front, still relaying, and of course the team of Cannondale looking after the interests of Peter Sagan, looking very fresh. It didn't look like he was panicking at all, and looks like the junction is going to be made. You can see the wind still coming from the right-hand side, but now there is a little bit more shelter as they come into the built-up area. A bit more foliage, some greenery, so that will shelter the riders a bit, and it's looking like it's only a few seconds now. And of course, Brian, when the lead is almost made, that's when the impetus of the group, people start looking around, they start freewheeling a little bit, and they know that their time is up. But Cavendish is going to be interesting. We never really see him in breakaways. You know, it will possibly affect his finish. I guess he's just going to want to get caught. What will he do? Will he sit back and relax as best as possible? I mean, he's a remarkably strong rider, so much strength in depth. I mean, you don't take Milan San Remo, of course. He's not just a rider that sits in the wheels, but again, it is going to make for a slightly different sprint, I think.
Yeah, I think he just has to, you know, gather the team, stay near the front, because there's going to be a few tired legs after this exertion at the front for most of these riders, especially in that crosswind. So everybody over the last 20-25 kilometres has made an effort in these crosswinds. So Mark is going well. He had 4 stage wins in the recent Tour of Turkey. Last year he won the British Championships in a breakaway, being away all day. So he's riding strong, but the thing is, the motivation is there. So I would think that he'll recover well. And you know, his team have been riding today in this crosswind section with Team Sky to try and break it up. It hasn't been successful, but I tell you what, it's been exciting over the last half hour. Jens Vogt comes towards the front, mouth open. The junction is not completely made at this moment in time, but by the looks of things, it will be made very shortly.
It's quite interesting to see what's going on in the front. We actually have the audio now. Now the junction has actually been made. You could hear riders shouting. What the worst thing when you're riding at the front, and you'll know this, Brian, when you're riding on the front trying to bring back a gap, is when a rider who's been sitting on for a bit surges through, you know, a completely different speed rather than riding through smoothly. So that's why sometimes you see these kind of gaps appear. But now everybody at 6s and 7s. Is somebody going to make a counter-attack? This is obviously the ideal moment for somebody to go again, but of course not too far to go.
Your answer has just been given. Mark Cavendish just jumped over to the left-hand side. He knows he wants to stay near the front. So your question has been answered. How will Mark feel? And it does look as if he's jumped into about 15th, 16th in line because he wants to stay near the front, because he knows that was hard over the last half an hour of racing. That was hard, and he wants to stay near the front. He doesn't want to drift back into the bunch. When there's a lull in the action, as you know, there might be a touch of wheels and you might get a crash. And when there's a lull in the action, you get the counter-attacks, and you know they're already started to begin.
It is, and it's the figure of Taylor Phinney, followed by Tom Bonan. 2 riders who excelled in the classics this year. Obviously Tom Bonan didn't quite make his 5th Paris-Roubaix, but he's counted again. He was in that move, and 2 of the strongest rouleurs in the peloton have now surged clear and opened up an immediate gap. This, Brian, is very, very interesting indeed. This is exciting stuff. We're going to cut to a commercial break in the moment, so please don't go away. You've got a couple of minutes to get yourself a cup of tea, but come back to see the climax of the Tour of California live here on Eurosport, the home of cycling, of course. Follow us on Twitter. It's at Brian Smithy, Bryce Smithy, or at Real Stevens, using the hashtag Eurosport Cycling or the hashtag ATOC2014. This should be a very exciting finish indeed. Doesn't appear we're going to cut to a break. It does seem as if the wind is playing enough of a part to us to stick with the action, Brian. That wind still coming from the right-hand side and causing all sorts of problems. You can just see by the way that the bunch is strung out and riders struggling at the back, moving around the outside all the time to try and get as much shelter as possible. This is going to be a very interesting finale.
Yeah, there's going to be a lot of tired legs when we come into the finishing circuit. It's 3.2 kilometres and we're going to do 3 laps. Sprint on the finishing line the first time across.
We are going to a commercial break now. Please stay with us. So welcome back to stage 1 of the Amgen Tour of California, and it's been action all the way. Straight from the off today, we had a 6-man move that stole a lead of 4 minutes, approaching halfway through the course. A couple of the hotspot sprints were taken by that group, and the king of the mountains of the day was taken by William Routley. That 6-man move was brought to heel on the foot slopes of the climbs of the day, and on the long flat run into the finish here in Sacramento, we had an elite 18-man group that went clear, including race favourite Sir Bradley Wiggins. Taylor Phinney was also there, Mark Cavendish was there, as was half of his team, including Tom Bonin. But the bunch did eventually become cohesive and started to work together. Garmin Shirt were one of the major teams that missed it. Of course, they're going to be looking after the interests of last year's 3rd overall, Hania Acevedo, the climber, and of course Peter Sagan missed that move. But Cannondale didn't do too much work. They left it to the other teams. Potentially quite a canny move indeed, playing a game of poker. But as we head into the city centre of Sacramento now, along a long, straight 4-lane highway, that group was caught, and now we're getting plenty of counter-attacks. 18.4 kilometres to go. This small group that's just gone clear in the last few moments of 4 riders. We'll get some names in a moment for you, and it's swelling to about 6 riders. Very, very soon the riders will be hitting the finish circuit, which they cover 3 times. Not an overly technical circuit, but there are several corners, some sharp right-angled corners in an L shape, but very, very wide, so the riders can take the corners, hardly even need to brake. 3 laps of 2 miles before we finish in the centre. Previous winners, of course, being Greg Henderson and Ben Swift, and of course Mark Cavendish, who is here today. So this, Brian, is set fair quite possibly for a bit of a sprint fest, but still a lot of aggression in the peloton.
Yeah, it's good to see. This is Ben King here for Cannondale. Ed King for Cannondale up towards the front. A couple of riders in here for United Healthcare, Jonathan Clark and Danny Summerhill. They were the riders that went on the attack. The Garmin rider was Ben King. So you've got Ed King and Ben King in this front group, but it just goes to show you, now we have Taylor Phinney of BMC towards the front as well. So he's been very aggressive today, but you know, when we first came in here, we had the 6th rider breakaway, Giant Shimano and Amiga Pharma Quickstep were controlling the peloton. But because of that crosswind section, it's meant that there's a lot of sore legs, a lot of tired bodies now after the last kind of half hour, 45 minutes of racing. So again, this is a time to take control. We are coming in towards Sacramento. This is where you have to take control, because if a group of 6 or 8 riders go away and it's the right combination, then they could go all the way towards the finish. So if you want it to be a sprint finish today, and I would pretty think that Omega Pharma Quickstep would want that, you have to try and gain control. But as I said, they have been riding hard over the last 15-20 kilometres in the crosswind section.
Yeah, of course, there were 4 or 5 riders in that lead group, obviously containing Sir Bradley Wiggins, but notably it was the Amiga Pharma Quickstep team of Mark Cavendish who were there in force, as we see Greg van Avermaet, one of the most aggressive riders in the peloton, attacking. He was one of the riders in that move. Very good to see as well some of the Bissell development team riders. The team run by the son of Eddie Merckx, Axel Merckx, and one of the riders in the breakaway today was young Theo Geoghegan-Hart, the British rider, riding on this Bissell team, 19 years of age, as opposed to the 42.5 years of age of Jens Voigt, who is riding today for Trek Factory Racing. But we're heading towards the finish. None of these groups are particularly sticking yet, Brian. Who are we going to look out for in terms of sprinters as we see another attack go down the left-hand side?
Yeah, we're looking at the sprinters. You would have to say the fastest man from his recent form is Mark Cavendish, 4 stage wins in the Tour of Turkey. So he would have to be the favourite for today's stage, and especially when you look at the lead-out train he's got here, there's some strong riders in there. Mention a few other names. Obviously, Hushoff is here, the Norwegian champion. Goss, we've already seen, he made that front group, so obviously feeling okay. Luke Rowe for Team Sky, Van Poppel we've seen was in that front group as well. Peter Sagan, Hoefland, Degenkolb, Van Rensburg, Ken Hansen, don't forget about him. Possibly Scott Thwaites, the British rider. Anderson and JJ Hadel. JJ Hadel won here in 2007. So
5 stages over the years as well.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So we've got some good sprinters, and we thought it's going to come down to a sprint, nice and easy stage, but lo and behold, we've had a crosswind section, tired a few legs out, so the sprinters teams will have to try and gain control, but I would think the emphasis would be on Omega Pharma Quickstep because of the 4 stage wins, because Peter Sagan normally comes here. What sort of form is he in? He hasn't raced over the last few weeks, but then again, you don't win 10 stages here in Tour of California without coming here with a plan, and obviously Cannondale being a big sponsor in this part of the world, he'll want to try and do well, so expect to see him, and we're just trying to find him over the other side of the peloton now.
I think the thing with Peter Sagan is the fact he's not a pure sprinter, although he can win fast, flat bunch sprints, he can get over the climb, so he's possibly got a few more options than some of the pure sprinters in the field, like of course of Mark Cavendish, for example. But yeah, potentially playing quite a canny game, because obviously Cav was out in the wind today a lot, and so was Goss, or notably Goss hardly did a turn. He was leaving it to the Omega Pharma Quick-Step trainers. We see another little breakaway here. Riders aren't giving up, but I think the most significant thing for me apart was how attentive Bradley Wiggins is. He's come into this race. We talk about him a lot, but again, he's a previous Tour de France winner. This race is, he's openly stated that this race, after the Tour de France, is Team Sky's second objective, and Bradley Wiggins does appear to be coming into very, very good form. We've seen flashes of brilliance this year, of course. 9th in Paris-Roubaix, coming into form in Trentino the other week, a race, of course, won by Cadel Evans. So when Brad was climbing very well in that race, and at the weight now, which is crucial for pro riders, a lot of, as well as form and power, weight is something that riders think about. But Bradley Wiggins, as well as all those things, he looks particularly cut and lean on his bike, but riding near the front of ahead of affairs, that says to me he's riding here with an intent. It's not just words at a press conference. He's riding with a man who wants to win this race.
Of course he wants to win. Team Sky have got a big American sponsor, so they've come here with one thing in mind, and that's to win the race with Bradley Wiggins. The 3 riders in front are Kyle Rennan for United Healthcare, Jacob Rath for the American team, Gregory Daniel also in there.
So we're approaching the finish circuits on stage 1 of the Amgen Tour of California, the 9th edition of the Tour of the Golden State. We have 3 riders that are just going clear. Earlier on in the race we had 6 riders that made the break of the day, that got a lead of around 4 minutes midway through the race, but it wasn't long before their lead was eaten away by a very, very fast moving peloton that actually split in the crosswind section on the approach, the southwest approach to Sacramento, and it was an elite group that broke clear, including Mark Cavendish, Tom Bonan, Mark Renshaw, Matteo Trentin, Bradley Wiggins, Luke Rowe, Taylor Finney, Greg Van Avermaet, amongst others. But the bunch did sense danger. There were 1 or 2 of the main protagonists or sprinters that missed that. So, and one of the main teams that missed it, of course, was Garmin Sharp. So eventually, and it took a bit of time, Brian, didn't it? They got 45 seconds at one point. It looked like it was curtains for the bunch, but they eventually brought it back, and we're heading into the finish now with a small group that's just gone clear. It looks like 3 of the American teams. Looks like a Bissell rider is there and a United Healthcare rider too, but the bunch are in close attendance, and it does look at the moment like this is set fair for a sprint finish.
Yeah, it does look that way. We were thinking somewhat different about half an hour ago with the crosswinds, but the Bissell rider is Gregory Daniel. Jacob Rath is the rider, or Rathe is a rider from at the back for Jelly Belly. and at the front, United Healthcare have got Rynan. So these riders have a slender advantage, and I would think looking at the front of the peloton, the sprinters teams would be coming towards the fronts, and as we say that, it does look as if Omega Pharma have got their breath back and have come to the front of the bunch to try and control things as we start heading towards downtown Sacramento.
You say getting your breath back, because if you have joined us late and are just getting our pictures now, Omega Pharma Quickstep managed to infiltrate that move with 5 riders, and it was essentially Mark Cavendish's lead-out train and Tom Bowden in that move, powering along. I think 2 of the riders that spent most of the time, or 3 of the riders that spent most of the time in the win, was Taylor Phinney, Tom Bowden and Sir Bradley Wiggins, and it won't be long before we're actually on the circuit itself. Of course, 3 laps of 2 miles. Ranjan Wraith, who was with Garmin last year, had a 3 years on Garmin before coming across to their Jelly Belly team. Of course, Jelly Belly, one of the teams that's been around the longest in America. I think, Brian, they've been around for the last 10 years, one of the longest serving teams on the US circuit. But the US scene is pretty good at the moment. They do have around 8 or 9 continental teams, and obviously 4 are riding here in this race. Of course, they're allowed to. It is a 2-point HC, and it is an American race. Although it's a 1 below World Tour, it does mean that some of the smaller teams can ride. And to be fair to them, they've been in the action all day, and at the sharp end of the race, aren't afraid to get stuck in at all.
No, it's good to see, and a lot of the American teams have got a lot of good races. And in fact, many of them rode the Tour of Gila. I think it was last week, a good preparation race, nice and hilly race before the Tour of California. So there's a lot of good racing here in North America, enough for, as you say, 9 continental 3rd division teams to have, and it's great to see. I spent a couple of years in the States racing, great racing scene. The emphasis was in criteriums, but I think it's been it's shifted over what's slightly in the last few years to more road racing. We see from the US Pro Challenge, Utah, Elk Grove is coming up, so there's a lot of good races now in the North America.
Well, that's not good news. Sorry to cut across you there, Brian. Not good news for Mark Renshaw. Only 6.8 miles to go, and it looks like he had a rear puncture, looked particularly cheesed off there, getting a spare wheel. It's going to be difficult for him to chase and get back in, but if there's anybody that can ride at high speed towards the back end of a race, it certainly will be Mark Renshaw, but that certainly will impact on his ability to possibly lead out Mark Cavendish. But of course, he's still got Boonen there, Matteo Trentin, of course, Van Kilsbroek, Nicky Terpstra, so the team, it'll certainly miss him, but a very, very inopportune moment, and we will soon be passing through the finish line, where we'll face 3 more laps of what is essentially an L-shaped circuit, but very, very, although it's quite technical, a lot of right-hand corners, it's very, very wide, so particularly safe, and you can hit these corners pretty much at full pelt without even really hardly needing to brake one. I mean, you know the circuit yourself, you've stood on the circuit and seen what it's like, and here we are coming down the finish straight now, nice and wide, so we'll provide for a absolutely fantastic spectacle should these riders get caught, but riding very, very well at the moment.
Just coming across the line to take the last sprint of the day, and that was Gregory Daniel. So 3, 2 and 1 seconds on the finishing line there. But now in the front of the peloton, we're starting to see some of the teams come towards the front, but noticeably on the left-hand side, Omega Pharma Quickstep have got the train together.
So 3 laps to go of stage 1 of the Amgen Tour of California. A tour of the Golden State, and it's been some golden racing today. We have 3 laps now to go. Only 2 miles, an L-shaped circuit. We had a breakaway earlier in the race. 6 riders went clear. Took 4 minutes at one point before they were brought back by the peloton. And then an elite group of around 18 to 20 riders went clear on the run into Sacramento in the crosswinds. And the break was forced by the power and the might of the Omega Pharma Quickstep team. Tom Bowden was there, Mark Renshaw was there, Mark Cavendish was there as well, as was Matteo Trentin, and of course Bradley Wiggins was there along with Taylor Phinney, but that was brought back. There was a few danger men that missed it, notably John Degenkolb, the German sprinter from Giant Shimano, and of course Peter Sagan, the Slovak champion, and arguably one of the most multi-talented riders on the circuit. And he's only still very young, and of course has won 10 stages of this race. But altogether now it's been an action-packed stage, but these riders still attacking and going clear. But it does look like Well, Amiga Pharma Quickstep, they've lost for the time being Mark Renshaw, but Amiga Pharma Quickstep amassing at the front, and no doubt will soon be joined by the other sprinters team too, Brian.
Yeah, interesting enough that we went through that sprint point there onto the lap for the first time across the finishing line, and United Healthcare rider Ryan just decided, well, you can have the bonus seconds, but I'm going to try and take the stage, and he's left the others behind him. He's just ridden them off the wheel, and he's like a man possessed at this moment in time. So, you know, United Healthcare, a big, you know, American sponsor, American team here, a second division team. So he's got a very good gap. I can only think that Amiga Pharma Quickstep, I've seen that Mark Renshaw have punctured. I don't want to kind of go full gas in this finishing circuit. Hopefully, Renshaw could possibly make it back to the front, but this man is riding like a man possessed at this moment.
He certainly is. As I was talking about the what had happened earlier in the day, Carl Ryan actually stormed round that corner and opened up a tremendous gap, and has opened up a gap now of 10 seconds on the peloton. We've got a nice aerial shot there, and it looks like the Cannondale riders are near the front, looking after the interests, of course, of Peter Sagan. But this is quite a wide. Oh, there we go. Some stats for Kyle there. Very, very talented young bike rider, and of course United Healthcare. They ride at pro-continental level, and that was the Kenda semicircle time. That denotes 1 kilometre to go, so make a note of that. We're still going to have, when we pass through the finish next time, there'll be 2 full circuits to go, and of course it's only 2 miles round, so we only have around 10 minutes of racing, and he's still holding a 10-second lead. But of course on the line we have a for first across the line on the stage, we have a 10-second time bonus for first, and then 6 seconds for second, and 4 seconds for third place. And there are time bonuses on all stages, aside from the 2 mountaintop finishes we have later in the race, and of course the individual time trial tomorrow. But at the moment, it's this young man, Carl Rogen, who's forging ahead, his mouth agape, gulping in air, getting as air as he can, being urged along by this tremendous crowd. And this, of course, the state capital of California, Sacramento. So the ideal place to start the race, but a rapturous applause in baking sunshine. This is going to be a superb finish, but Cannondale are now amassing at the front in the service of Peter Sagan.
Yeah, I was just looking at the front of the peloton. I think I managed to see Mark Renshaw. Possibly it's made it back to the front for Amiga Pharma Quickstep, but it's on the left-hand side, the lime green of Cannondale, starting to get the lead-out train in order for Peter Sagan. But this man, Ryan, the American 27-year-old, is still out front by about 10 seconds. He has ridden, obviously, in the States a few years ago for Jelly Belly, so he knows these type of circuit races that they have in this part of the world. A couple of years with Team Type 1, but over the last 2 years has ridden for United Healthcare at pro-continental level, second division level. But again, riding like a man possessed, but I think his sponsors will be absolutely loving this.
Well, he's now got a complete straight ahead. It looks like he's opening up this lead. This is a tremendous effort by the young American rider. Getting on the drops, he'll be maxed out. He will be absolutely giving it everything now. Obviously being cheered on by this crowd, and he does seem to be pulling away. 3.9 miles to go, 15 seconds now. He did have 10 seconds going through the finish, has opened it up. He does have the luxury of one of those entire straights ahead, to be ahead of the other riders, so out of sight and out of mind, and this young man is racing the race of his life at the moment. Fantastic stuff. 20 seconds now his lead. So with 1.5 laps to go of this 2-mile finishing circuit in Sacramento, the finish of stage 1 of the Tour of California, the Amgen Tour of California, in its 9th running. We have Carl Ryan of the USA riding on the United Healthcare team with a 20-second lead. He attacked on the run into the circuit with 2 other breakaway compatriots that he soon dispensed with. And now it's Cannondale that are chasing. Team Sky in close attendance. No standout sprinter, of course, for Team Sky here, but Luke Rowe can finish well. But I think they're just looking after the interests of Sir Bradley Wiggins, who's got an eye on the overall and staying out of trouble at all. And we have, of course, a absolutely fantastic roster of sprinters here. We have, of course, Mark Cavendish, Tom Bonin isn't a mean finisher, Brian, of course. We have Danny Van Poppel, who had a puncture earlier on in the race, was in a breakaway. We have Matt Goss, a previous winner, of course, of Milan-San Remo. We have Peter Sagan, Lars Baum, Reno Hofland from Belkin Pro Cycling, John Degenkolb from Team Giant Shimano, and the young South African on the same team, Janci van Rensburg as well. Himself a winner of several races at the back end of last season and a very, very good lead-out rider. Some outsiders, Kev Hansen from United Healthcare, Scott Thwaite, a very, very fast-finishing youngster from Team NetApp Endura, and of course Juan Jose Haydó, the Argentinian, the only Argentinian rider in this field, but vastly experienced, with 5 stage wins under his belt. And then Freddy Rodriguez, a bit of another outsider, 40 years of age, but the current United States road race champion. But at the moment, it's this young man, Brian.
Yeah, only 4 kilometres to go. This is a brave effort by Reinen, the United Healthcare rider. He started the season over in Europe, rode quite a few races. In fact, one of the races he rode was the Flèche Wallonne only a couple of weeks ago, but he came back to ride the Tour of Gila, finished 22nd in that just last week, so a good preparation race. But just as we say that, he comes on to the finishing straight, and the peloton are really starting to move now. It does look as if this gap is down to about 10 seconds.
We've got 10 seconds on the monitor there, but I think it's a little bit less than that. He's been riding out of his skin, but once the peloton turn on the gas, when you've been out on your own for that long, there's only so far that you can ride at that sort of tempo. He's now starting to rock his shoulders. His skin suit is unzipped. He looks under his shoulders. He knows his time is up. But what a very, very brave ride by this young man. His sponsors will be very, very proud. We have 1 lap to go now of this 2-mile finishing circuit. It's all over for this young man, but what a very, very brave ride by Carl Reinen from America. But now we head with 1 lap to go. Who will it be? This is going to be a very, very exciting finish. 2.6 miles is all we have to the finish of stage 1 of the 9th running of the Amgen Tour of California. So 4 kilometers to go now for the bunch. It's all together now. We've had a series and a flurry of attacks. The last one being from Kyle Reinen of United Healthcare. Stayed out in front for a couple of laps of this finishing circuit. It's quite a flowing finishing circuit, very, very wide, although there are a number of right-angled corners. As you can see, it's the sort of corner that you can take at speed. You might need to just feather your brakes, but it is a very, very fast circuit and does suit teams riding on the front. And at the moment, it's Cannondale riding for Peter Sagan without a shadow of a doubt. But will we see Omega Pharma Quickstep move up late? What we've seen this year, Brian, especially, is teams leaving it very, very late for the lead-out train, and that makes for some quite dangerous and exciting racing. And there we go. It's Omega Pharma Quickstep who've taken up the mantle, and there's not long to go now.
Yeah, there's a lot of the teams leave it late now because you can only go at 50, 55 k's an hour for about 500 meters, some of these riders, so you can't really put too many riders towards the front too early. It was left to Cannondale on the last lap, but now Omega Pharma Quickstep decided, right, enough is enough. Cannondale missed out in the crosswind sections, but they're still in with a chance with Peter Sagan for the stage win here, and also Giant Shimano have helped out at the front now.
So it is Omega Pharma Quickstep who are taking it up now with 1 mile to go, 1.9 kilometers, and they're amassed at the front. 4 riders there. It looks like the figure of Matteo Trentin, the Italian himself, a mean sprinter, took out the stage, of course, if you remember back last year in the Tour de France. It looks like Guillaume van Killsbrook is also there. Tom Boonen isn't far away, and not far down the line. We just saw the dappled shade there. It was difficult to pick riders out, but Mark Cavendish, resplendent, of course, in his white British national championship jersey. He'll be there looking for a stage win, but Mark's had a different day today. He's been out in the breakaway with ex-teammate and obviously Tour de France champion Bradley Wiggins. But at the moment, Omega Pharma Quickstep have taken it up for the first 2 laps of the finishing circuit. We had a breakaway, and it was Cannondale who led the chase. But now with 1.4 kilometers to go, Matteo Trentin looks over his shoulder, swings off. His job is now done, and it looks like the figure of Tom Boonen who takes the front.
It's actually the Paris-Roubaix winner with 1 kilometre to go. It's Nicky Terpstra comes towards the front. and Nicky Terpstra missed out in the crosswind section, so he comes to the front, but you can just see him looking round, Matt. He's wanted to see where his other teammates are, haven't fully committed, and now it's over to Giant Shimano with John Degenkolb sitting in 4th place.
So Giant Shimano now take it up at the front, and they're forcing it now, absolutely riding flat out. They're not just riding on the front, the rider on the front now will be absolutely sprinting flat out, going so fast, in fact it's gapped it the 2nd place rider. This is going to be an absolutely rip-roaring finale as the camera spins off, and it's still Team Argos Giant Shimano on the front. We only have 300 metres to go, and it's Mark Renshaw who takes the front, Cavendish in the middle there, but it looks like John Degenkolb in the middle now, but Cavendish comes round on the right-hand side, it's Degenkolb in the middle, Cavendish on the right, nice and low, and Cavendish goes on the left-hand side. Can he get round John Degenkolb? Degenkolb was there, but it's Mark Cavendish. Oh, that was tight, couldn't call that one. Was it John Degenkolb or was it Mark Cavendish? They look across at each other. That's going to go down to a photo finish. Peter Sagan wasn't very far away, but it was after the efforts of Omega Pharma Quickstep in the final kilometres. As you say, Brian, Nicky Terpstra took it up. It was then Mark Renshaw, but the road was so wide it gave various options. We'll have to go and see what the photo finish said, but what an exciting sprint. It looks like Degenkolb may have got it, but if he did, it was only by the width of a tyre. Very, very close indeed. Let's look at the slow motion.
Well, hard to call this, and it was Degenkolb that led out from about 200 metres. Sagan is also up there, but it doesn't have the power. Mark Cavendish comes up the right-hand side, and then it just becomes a who's got enough energy left to try and take the win. Mark Cavendish comes up almost alongside now, and the two of them throw their bike. For me, I think it's Mark Cavendish who's got the stage win. So very close in the end. We'll wait for confirmation on that, but it does look as if the British champion has won his first stage here. Last one here in 2010, and it looks as if he's won here in 2014.
It certainly does. The area was shot there. It was difficult. Cav didn't know. Degenkolb looked across, but that was an absolute Van Poppel in the mix there. But at this point, Sagan knows it's over. But despite a late lunge by the German sprinter, the German powerhouse John Degenkolb, of course, up there in Paris-Roubaix this year, it looked like Mark Cavendish will hopefully get confirmation. But Brian, as you called it, the aerial shot, it did look like it was the Manx missile. Mark Cavendish, who took yet another victory, coming obviously into some very rich vein of form after his victories in the Tour of Turkey, but still waiting for confirmation. But it will go down to a photo finish. It looks like he's got word through. It's handshakes all round, and of course Mark Cavendish giving Tom Bowden, the former world champion in the gold Oakleys there, a bit of a hug and another victory. What a glittering Palmares Mark Cavendish. There it is, confirmation there, big smiles all round for the team, who seem to sport beards all round. It seems to be a bit of a trend in the peloton. Brad's got a beard, Cav's got a bit of a beard going on despite the very hot conditions, but what an exciting sprint that was. And of course, Mark Cavendish had been in the break in the final there. There's a hug from Nicky Terpstra too. Hugs all round. A very appreciative crowd. But we should get the graphic up in a moment, but another fine victory for Mark Cavendish. He'll be very pleased with that. He came here with high hopes, he came here with a strong team, and he appears to have delivered on the day. So, confirmation, stage one of the Amgen Tour of California. Mark Cavendish from John Degenkolb of Team Jump Shimano. Moreno Hofland, the sprinter from Belkin, in fourth. Third, Guillaume Boven 6th, Eric Young 7th, Matt Goss, Orica 8th, Taylor Finney in 9th, and John Murphy from United Healthcare in 10th. And Nicholas Brochner 11th, Tanner Putt in 12th, Ken Hansen 13th, Ryan Eastman 14th, and Jasper Stuyven in 15th place.